need to stop drinking because there was no other way for me. And absolutely, there's nothing that I drank anything between water and petrol. So the experience that I had in that short period actually made me realize that alcohol is not for me.
If these people who are selling drugs would be telling us what you are buying would do this with this and this head, they would tell us the after effects of them. I don't believe that we would be smoking these drugs.
When you drink alcohol, you don't care about people. You only care about yourself.
How widespread is abuse of alcohol in South Africa? What happens if you drink alcohol every single day? And what are some of the causes of drug abuse in our country? Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Dr. Musamtomeni. Signing with us today is Trifosa Nzwelengwe. On Vital Signs, we focus on alcohol and substance abuse. Coming up on the program, we'll listen to insights produced by Wandile Mfokeng. He spoke to a recovered alcoholic, someone who's recovering from drug abuse, as well as the use of alcohol. And they share their story with us. And we'll speak to a clinical psychologist from the South African Depression and Anxiety Group about the impact of alcohol on your body and how drugs actually impact your health and well-being. We'll speak to Acting Director of Substance Abuse Prevention, Treatment and Rehabilitation Services from the Gauteng Department of Social Development and a non-alcoholic board member from the Alcoholics Anonymous South Africa about the availability of access and treatment. Remember that you can be part of the show by simply sharing your views and asking the questions that you have on your mind on what we're discussing today. The number to call is 011-714-5861 or 011-714-5877. We're also available on social media. You can share your thoughts with us there, and that is on Twitter at SABC Vital Signs or Facebook SABC Vital Signs. We'll continue our discussion after the ad break. Welcome back. This is Vital Signs. I'm Dr. Musamtomeni. Alcoholism does not affect the individual alone. If the alcoholic is married, cohabiting, or actually has a family, it will negatively impact everyone in that family. And this is the case with Sizotwa, who's suffering from alcoholism and managed to change her life drastically by attending AA meetings. And please note that her identity has been hidden to protect her.
No, my first experience with alcohol, I was like 14 or 15. With a friend of mine. The father was a rep of some company, and we stole a bottle of White Horse. And we both drank. That bottle finished, and I had a blackout.
From that blackout experience, when she was a teenager, Sizotwa, not her real name, never touched alcohol after her father reprimanded her. She only got reintroduced to alcohol years later. Please note we concealed her identity to protect her privacy.
So from there on, I never drank. Not at all. I mean, I was about 14, 15, somewhere there. Never drank until, of course, when I got married to my sweetheart. We were together for 10 years. And he introduced alcohol again in my life, you know. So again, it's to say alcoholism is a progressive disease because after so many years, I didn't touch a drink and I was okay.
Sizotwa was a casual drinker. Her problem with alcohol started when she was dependent on it.
There's a time where I want alcohol. You know, I used to drink like maybe weekends, maybe one evening in the week, but then I started wanting it. And I would go to any length to get alcohol.
Alcohol affected almost all areas of her life, including family, friends. Mostly, it affected her work.
It was painful because on Mondays like this, if I was able to get to work, I'm sleeping under the desk because I can't function. My head is this big. And I didn't understand what was wrong with me. Tuesday, Wednesday. If I'm able to get to work on Monday and Tuesday, yeah. Wednesday, I come out with a big excuse. Like I killed almost everybody in my family because the excuse was, hey, so-and-so died in my family, which was not true. I was not functional. For me to be able to function, I needed alcohol.
Too much alcohol can cause harm to your health, and for Sizotwa, she was also affected.
Now when I went to the doctor, I went for a spilivana, just to get a note to go get to work. I don't know that part. But I know alcohol affected me physically. Physically, I was so thin because I didn't have time to eat. Now, as long as there's alcohol, or even if I come and get something, just a piece of meat with a bit of salt, yes, that's what I would eat. Physically, I was affected. I was very thin. And it affected me mentally as well.
Seeing how alcohol was destroying her life, she took it upon herself to seek help. She found AA whilst attending Sanka's treatment program.
That's the first time I felt that I'm human. There are people who seem to, like they understand me better than I understand. They loved me before I could love myself. So that's how I got to alcohol. That was 35 years ago.
35 years later, Sizotwa managed to change her life and be a better person in society through the help of AA.
I'm a better mother today. I have 3 beautiful kids, and my children love me unconditionally. My daughter-in-laws love me unconditionally. That's the call I had when you guys walk in. They're checking on me now and then. I have my siblings. My sisters love and respect me as their elder sister, unlike before.
Just like having an occasional sweet won't entirely ruin your healthy eating plan, most people can have an alcoholic beverage on occasion without it harming their health. However, regularly drinking alcohol or excessively drinking large amounts of alcohol in a short time can obviously cause some serious harm to your health. Now, research has showed that alcohol abuse and binge drinking increases your risk of early death, as well as having early death conditions such as heart and liver disease, as well as disability. To help us understand the impact of alcohol and how it may change your life and the effects that it has on your body, we're joined by clinical psychologists from the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Samgelisiwe Mthembu. Good day. How are you today?
Fine, thanks, and you?
Good. So let's talk about the use of substances, alcohol specifically in this case. How do people find themselves in this pattern of abuse?
So it generally starts off, as you were saying a few minutes ago, where people do start off with a drink. That is a casual drink, and they actually can handle their substances, and it's not really an issue or a problem. And then after some time, when someone starts to rely on the substance to deal with emotions such as, finances, not being able to communicate with their family, struggling with communicating with their partners, and any other life stresses, then we know that the person is now starting to depend on the substance to actually get through the day. And then slowly but surely it progresses into use and then abuse and then addiction.
So what does dependence look like? I mean, I think we use this term, dependence on substances as something, but, does me going out on the weekend and in my having a good time, constitute dependence on alcohol to have a good time? Where do we draw the line? What is what?
So it usually starts with the person not being able to not have alcohol. So there's some of us who, socially we drink during the weekend, and it's more or less acceptable. And some of us do drink alone in the house after work, and it's still okay. But some people then start to overdo it in terms of they cannot now think or feel like they are human without the substance. They start to, in the word itself, depend on the substance to make them feel as though they are okay to numb their emotions, to numb the pain that comes with the things that they cannot control, to numb forgetting, to assist them to forget. And usually some people also, they not only just drink alcohol, but they now start to mix alcohol with other things like the medication, either prescribed or not prescribed, over the counter, grandpas, anything that would make them feel not in touch with the things that are causing them a lot of pain. So that's when dependence starts to come in the picture, to the point where now when the person doesn't drink alcohol at all, they will start to have withdrawal symptoms. They'll be cranky, they'll be grumpy, they'll have a stomach ache, they'll start to shake. And then it's almost as if the alcohol becomes part of their bodily function, and the body starts to reject them not being able to drink the alcohol at all during the day.
So how does one realize they actually have a problem with alcohol? I think a lot of denial lives within the space of addictions and the space of dependence, where you find yourself in a situation where you know you're consuming things, but to you it feels like this is normal. It's okay to sit and finish a bottle of wine every night at home because I've had a hard day, and there are justifications that come into play. So clinically, or in terms of actual classifications, are there ways that we can say that this is now a problem? You've moved from someone that uses a substance to someone that is now abusing or dependent or addicted?
Yes, there are general guidelines where there is questionnaires where if someone's taking more than, drinking more than a certain amount of glasses a day, or drinking a certain amount of bottles a day, or sometimes it's not even necessarily in terms of glasses and bottles, but sometimes spirits tend to be slightly stronger than just a wine glass. And someone might just say, well, I only have 2 or 3 glasses of, let's say, for example, whiskey on the rocks or brandy on the rocks. And, then they think, no, that's actually a small amount to consume. So I guess in many ways you can say it's the amount of alcohol percentage that you consume. And also now, how are you functioning when you start to drink? How is that affecting your liver? How is that affecting your communication with the people at home? Your ability to wake up in the morning and go to work? How are you when you're at work? Are you able to focus, concentrate, be present, do your work? So there's quite a few things that we look out for. And sometimes it's not so black and white because, again, body weight and body fat, body fat percentage. So it works with each person individually. But essentially, the questions that we ask are looking out for how is the person's use of the substance impacting their ability to function at work and at home.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got Lucas on the line who's got a question that he'd like to ask. Lucas, how are you?
Yeah.
Yes, Lucas, we're listening.
Okay.
Lucas?
Hello.
Hi, yes, we're listening. We're ready for your question, Lucas.
I'm listening, yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
My problem is that as I said that I started being far from my work, and then so that I told my employers got a problem with the cases, but it's not the reality. And then so that I don't know, I'm frustrated already now, and then so that I don't know what to do.
So Lucas, are you someone that's suffering from, are you finding yourself drinking every day to deal with your problems, or what's the actual issue?
Yeah, drinking every day, yeah, it's my problem. That even now I'm in my home, and then I was drinking already this morning, almost with a beer, and then so that I saw this article on the TV, and then so that
okay.
That's why I contacted you to maybe you can help me what to do.
For sure.
So.
Thank you, Lucas. All right, you can hang up and listen on the TV. So I'm going to see where we'll get to an answer on how we can assist you, okay? All right, so Lucas is gone, but I think the main issue here, and he's really gone out to really speak about what we're talking about today. He said that there are a number of issues in his life, of course, and what he's found himself doing is drinking a lot more. He said he's even drinking now this morning because of all these issues. But importantly, how can he get help? What are the steps that he needs to follow in order to break away from this pattern that he finds himself in?
So sometimes it helps to, the first step he's actually taken is to admitting that he has an issue, admitting that the use of the alcohol is creating an issue. And this first step is very important because a lot of people are in denial of their alcohol use. And when family members and when colleagues at work or bosses at work or other people at work try to get involved, the person is very resistant because they themselves do not actually admit to themselves or even believe that they have a problem. So the first step generally is already something that Lucas has embraced, which is saying to himself that I actually need help. I need assistance with this substance use. And that already opens up the doors to, okay, now where can he start looking for help? And these areas are usually, with colleagues, community, at work. Sometimes there's programs for people who are suffering from alcohol use and to reach out to work wellness. And if the person is not necessarily comfortable with maybe using the facilities at work, then is to allow themselves to go into the community, to social workers, clinics, organizations such as the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, where they can then find ways to start finding AA groups, or if it's drugs, narcotics groups, to actually assist with their alcohol use or usage.
Okay, thank you for that. And Lucas, I'm sure you're listening and still listening at home. The important thing here to note is that there are people around you, even if it's not your family, people at the workplace if you have a job, people in and around your community, social workers. There is a way in which you can go out and get some help. You just need to be proactive about it and follow up on it. And I mean, we'll answer and get into some more of these questions. I'm going to say we're still around and we're going to be answering all the pertinent questions. How you go out and get help and is there assistance? Those are the questions that we're trying to answer on the show today. Do not move a muscle. We'll see you after this. Welcome back. This is Vital Signs. Now, Westview Clinic offers both in- and outpatient services for people who need help for substance abuse problems. We visited the center to speak to those who are receiving help to find out what led them to the use of these substances, how they got affected, and why they finally decided to ask for help. Take a listen.
We started by smoking weed. Started off with weed, then we felt like weed wasn't enough for us. So we jumped to the next level of CAT. So I went to CAT and attended a rehab last year. Then I think I was clean for about 5 to 6 months. Then I relapsed this year, which is 3 months back.
Smoking weed and peer pressure was how 20-year-old's journey with drugs began. For the purpose of this interview, we will call him Tato, and his identity will be hidden to protect his privacy. We visited Tato at Westview Clinic in Johannesburg to find out what could have been the cause for him to use substances.
Every opportunity I was getting, my dad was declining it and stuff like that. So I felt like now he wants me to live his life, not my life. He wants me to go through his steps. So now I got a friend, which I was telling him my problems. So he introduced me to these substances and said, if I smoke this, I'll be relieved. I wouldn't think much about those kind of stuff.
To feed his cravings, Tato started to steal at home to go and buy his substances.
I started stealing from my mother because she was selling Tupperware, Avon, all those products. So I started stealing the orders which people have to be given. So I was stealing her equipment, material stuff. I was selling things in the house, jewelries and stuff. So that's when she got to a point where she wanted to arrest me. She called cops for me. So as she called cops, then I spent about 5 to 6 days in the cells. So that's when I realized that I needed help. I needed help a lot.
Tato has finished his 42-day program at Westview Clinic, and he has come to realize how drugs can affect one's well-being.
If these people who are selling drugs would be telling us what you are buying would do this with this and this head, they would tell us the after effects of them. I don't believe that we would be smoking these drugs. But now, just because we are getting people who are telling us about the highness, the enjoyment and stuff, that's why we're going to those same thing. And the people who are selling us these things, they don't smoke it. They're just ruining our lives. And we are giving them money. The money that we're using, it's a lot of money which we could have been using it wisely with our families, buying us nice stuff, doing good things, and pushing our visions and missions and goals in life.
We met another patient at the clinic who was there for alcohol addiction. His identity is also hidden to protect his privacy. He shares with us why he kept on relapsing and keep coming back to rehab.
My alcohol experience on the age of 18, and I went to a rehab before, and I finished the program. But the day when I got out, I relapsed immediately. So the years passing on all of that, so I got PTSD, stress disorder, and personality disorder and everything, and also OCD.
He mentions that he is suffering from mental health issues, but the reason for his drinking dates back to when he was young.
The reason, because I was drinking, I was a victim of rape from the age of 4 years old. My father abused me and my sister also. So basically that built up many years and I started to drink on the age of 18, and I never could have dealt with my problems outside with my family or anything. I drink because I want to feel better. I want to take my pain away, what I went through in life, and it never worked.
He is encouraging those who are thinking of picking up their first drink not to do so, and for those who are struggling to go and seek help.
Just rather stay away from alcohol. That if you know you got a problem, rather go for help before you pick it up. But for the people outside there who is already addicted to alcohol, I will say that they really need to go for help, because it destroys families, and it's not nice to get that experience where you destroy families. And you also, the people on the streets, you will end up losing everything in life.
According to the Department of Social Development, marijuana, cocaine and ecstasy are the most commonly used drugs in South Africa. The impact of these substances and, of course, the abuse of these substances continues to ravage families, communities and society. In this segment, we're going to unpack what drugs do and the impact that they have on individuals' health and well-being. We're still joined by Samgalisiwe Mthembu, clinical psychologist from SADC, and let's continue our discussion. Samgalisiwe, before we move on to drugs, I want to wrap up the alcohol discussion. Do you think the use of alcohol ends up being a gateway into the use of other substances as a way to manage people's pain, psychological issues and things such as that?
No, I think there's actually many ways. There's many gateways to substance use. You know, something as simple as when you're a child and your mother gives you a painkiller for your headache, you already then learn that sometimes in life, in order to have your pain taken away, all you need to do is swallow a pill. And there's also then the gateway of, social gateway in the community, where everyone in the community is doing a certain substance. It's known in that community that's the substance people genuinely take or use. And then that can be a social gateway where the use of the drug is desensitized in that community. So I believe there's more than one gateway. There is the gateway of using a substance, any kind of substance that introduces you to the field of taking a substance. But I think, there's, the gateways to substances, the ones that are the most dangerous are the psychological and the emotional gateways, because often people take advantage of the fact that alcohol is used, the uncle drinks, we all have a good time. And then no one takes time to actually defend themselves from their emotional pains, their emotional challenges, which are actually the things that allow them to become addicted to the substances.
So with respect to the use of drugs, do we have a big drug issue in South Africa versus an alcohol one? And how do people find themselves in using these different substances that we have that end up leading them to being addicted?
So genuinely, I find that alcohol and substance abuse, they tend to go hand in hand. But somehow when it comes to alcohol, because it's more, I can say, easily available, there's liquor stores, it's open, it's legalized, that alcohol does tend to become more of an issue just because of accessibility. But when it comes to substances, and alcohol is quite gradual. The way that people struggle with alcohol use and how it manifests is quite gradual, whereas substances, because substances are so strong, the impact can be quite severe and quick. And therefore, then the person who struggles with substance use does tend to get assistance or help quicker than someone who's struggling with alcohol use, because with alcohol, people tend to struggle to gauge when it is becoming a problem. So in South Africa, I would say that they're both issues and they're both very severe issues. Alcohol tends to be something that takes a while for people to recognize as an issue, and whereas substances, the changes are so sometimes severe and impactful that they tend to be noticed quicker.
Now, more and more young people are getting addicted to a lot of drugs that we find in the community that are very easily accessible, the nyaupe, marijuana, and things such as that. What is contributing to this trend, and how is society trying to combat this?
No, I think, unemployment, uneducation, or not being aware of what the substance does. And also just, the youth suffering from a lot of mental ailments, the abuse, waking up or being grown up in abusive households themselves, their emotional issues. A lot of the youth are suffering from depression, are suffering from anxiety. I've seen things while growing up that they should have never been exposed to. And therefore, then substances become a way out. And at first, it seems to work. So like the young gentleman was explaining before in his rehab, that his friend introduced him to marijuana because he was saying that, he's struggling with all these things, these stresses. And for a while, these things actually do work, because substances, as much as they are illegal street substances, they are also, in a sense, or how they became to be made was they were meant to be medication. They were meant to be things that were supposed to assist people cope in life or learn how to cope in life. But the problem is they are unregulated in how strong they are. And also, these substances are not a fix-all thing. They don't make the problems go away. They don't make the stresses that the people are dealing with somehow disappear. It just numbs the person, and then the person gets addicted to being numb and not being able or not having to feel all of that stress. So I think in many ways, substances, they have become addicted for the youth, because the youth in general these days are dealing with a lot of mental issues.
Okay, we've got Esther on the line who's got a question for us. Esther, dumela.
Hi, sir.
Le kae, ma'am?
Good thing you guys.
Re teng, mama. Potso ya hao ke, ma'am?
Potso ya ka, doctor, ke hore ke na le setloholo se se jang di-drugs, hore yona e ja crystal confesses. So ne ke kopa o buisa nna re ka mo etsa jang, because of re mo isitse rehab, mme wa hae na sa sebetsa mo kentse ka medical aid. And then ha boya a le rightly clean. 2 minutes sa boetse back ko ditšhomeng tse tsa hae. So now I'm stressed because of amameli pele na utswa dilo tsa bona no rena a sa utswa ko kawash, but still wa mona re on drugs on Saturday na kula ha re bitsa ambulance ha batle, but ko rena ba tla rehab o ba tla sekolong next year. So ne ke kopa thusa ke tsone ka etsa jang a sa sebetsa a re na tšhelete tla mo isa rehab mo go patalwang teng.
Yeah, ma'am. All right, ke utlwa.
So ne re batla thusa o re yena o batla rehab next year o batla ya sekolo. Ntate wa hae ha yo go bophelong ba hae.
Ma'am.
So mo ntse thola motho wa ka buang le ntate wa hae a betseng bophelong ba hae. Maybe I don't know.
All right, ma'am. Ra leboa re tla utlwa re sa mo le se bo reng, okay?
Okay.
Umamele mo TV. Right, so the issue here is there's a grandchild in the home that was previously seen or was at a rehab facility, has come back and persists in the use of drugs quite immediately, according to the grandmother. Is there help for such a person, and how can they access the help?
So something very important there that the grandmother mentioned is friends. So when it comes to, like, for example, a third party, like the grandmother trying to assist the child, putting them through rehab, using the medical aid to put them through rehab, putting in their efforts, but the grandchild or the person in question themselves is not yet ready to fully embrace the rehab process. At times, the process becomes very difficult because the family is ready to assist the person, but the person is not yet ready to let go of their influential friends, which have a bad influence on them, or ready to even actually accept that they have a problem. And often this back and forth can actually mean that a lot of resources are wasted. And, the solution isn't a very easy one. The solution actually is sometimes you actually have to allow that person, that family member, to reach rock bottom themselves and preserve the resources as much as possible. Assist where you can. If the person comes in and wants food, give them food. Hide the valuables in the house. And then when the person has hit rock bottom themselves and they actually say, I'm ready, to then welcome them in with open arms and not necessarily fall into the trap of trying to help them every time, but that person isn't ready, especially once they have gone through rehab. Then they immediately go back to the friends that are the bad influence or back to the environment that caused them to actually use the substances, and then the process starts all over again. So yes, there is help for this person, but the person also actually needs to want the help in order for rehab to work.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for joining us, Samuel Siwe, today and really unpacking this issue of addiction, unpacking, the idea that, people can get help. But I think importantly, in the last note that you've made, is the understanding that they need to accept the help themselves. Otherwise, it's really just a waste of resources and the person will go right back to the old habits once they do leave a rehab facility, once they do leave the social worker and whatever it might be. And of course, all of this has a toll on the people that are in the family. Stick around, because after the ad break, we speak to these services that are available to help people out on their path to rehabilitation. We'll see you after this. Substance abuse is an enormous social problem in South Africa and everywhere else, and is increasing every single day. Alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, tick, heroin, and many others are some of the most frequently used substances that we do have in this country, according to the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Although there is no magic wand when it comes to treating substance abuse and addiction, help is available for patients and their families. And here to inform us about how we can get that help, we're joined by Desiree Karlinski, the Acting Director of Substance Abuse Prevention, Treatment and Rehabilitation Services from the Department of Social Development in Gauteng, and Dr. Varoshni Nadesan, a non-alcoholic member of the Alcoholics Anonymous South Africa. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Dr. Ntombeni.
So let's start things off, and I'm going to start off with you, Desiree. What's the department's view with respect to the alarming number of new addiction cases that we see on a daily in the province and I guess nationally as well?
Good morning, and thanks again for inviting the Department of Social Development to participate in this program. Yes, the department acknowledges the fact that substance abuse is ravaging our society and that we should all actually become part of the social movement to fight the scourge of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. So there's a lot of the age of onset has dropped and many people are exposed to drugs. The department is opposing the availability of the substances because it is very much available at the doorstep. We normally make the analogy that people will know where a shebeen or a drug outlet is before they would know where a development center is. So we want to turn that around in our communities. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Roshni Nadesan, in terms of addiction and in the view of Alcoholics Anonymous, I mean, a lot of us know about the AA from watching TV and seeing it in American shows and things such as that. But do you guys see the numbers that reflect the problem that we have in South Africa?
Yes, for sure. I think you just need to look at research on the whole. Where in 2018, a study showed that 1 in 10 deaths in South Africa was attributed to alcohol abuse. In Africa alone, South Africa lies 5th on the continent with alcoholism. Studies have also shown that there's a large increase in terms of women taking alcohol and men as well. Recently, the government has put a clampdown on this sale of alcohol during the pandemic. And why did they do that? Was merely because of the increase in the number of, or the high numbers of increase in terms of hospitalizations for alcohol-related incidences, like your accidents, etc. And that was then usurping the medical fraternity availability. So at Alcoholics Anonymous, we found that there's a great need. In fact, South Africa in 1948 started the first AA group. This year, 2021, it's our 75th year of AA in South Africa. And that alone talks to the sustainability and the need for treatment and for support for alcoholics in South Africa.
Let's retouch on alcoholics in South Africa and the fact that, you've got this number of people socially that are consuming alcohol. The number or the onset in terms of age of people that start to consume alcohol has naturally dropped. But are you seeing these numbers reflected in the people that are coming to get help from your facilities?
You see, alcoholism doesn't specifically apply to any particular age group. It transcends ages, it transcends all walks of life. And yes, at all times we found that there's numbers that are quite high of people reaching out to AA. In South Africa alone, we have over 330 groups. And this was prior to the pandemic, 330 groups, support groups for AA. AA is free in South Africa and throughout the world it is free. It is a support that's given from an experienced alcoholic to a newcomer, or it also follows the 12-step program. It follows a program of sponsorship. It is totally a-religious, and yes, it is reaching out to all walks of life. There's been a high incidence of alcoholism in South Africa. South Africa has been, there's a place called DR in the Northern Cape, which has the highest incidence of fetal alcohol syndrome in the world, followed very closely by a town in the Western Cape. And that itself tells you of the incidence of alcoholism and the effects that it has on the unborn. So, one of the things that we could look at is reaching out into our schools, reaching out to the youth, reaching out to everyone that finds that they have an alcohol or an addiction problem. Addiction is a very, very complex issue. No one treatment is applicable to everyone.
That's so true.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a caller on the line. Mrs. Dube has got a question that she'd like to ask. Mrs. Dube, hello.
Hello, Abiti.
Nijanma. Rete mama. Putso ke.
Nna ke batla go botsa doctor mo ke na le problem ya ngwana. He's almost 30 years now. O startile di drugs a le ko grade 9, 10 up to 11. A ba fetsa 12 ntse a le mo di drugs. Up to date ntse a le mo drugs. Ha gona rehab excellent ka mo misa ko yone. Ke metsitse mo di rehab ntse go tshwaya wa boa wa relapse hape. So no problem I even moved out of the house because ona outswa ya paro outswa everything chelete ka montlung at whatever that he can come across. So ke tsile ka montlung ke tlogetse ntse ke hirisitse. I'm out gore ke bane le peace of mind because I feel I cannot take this anymore.
Yeah.
Ke under medication or depression every year since after my so I can't take it anymore. So I don't know. I've tried my podisa, the rehab, so I get to run and what can I do?
Mama, inele motho a batlang yena self ho ya rehab kapa ne le misa le mo foster ha le misa go teng.
first time re ne mo gapeletsa nane ka mo tsaya a boa a feditse program nane second time a ba bolela gore yena o batla o ikele ka reno ka gore nna ke tsamaile le wena program e o tle go thusa so this time wena take hit ke problem ya hao a baya a itsela into the program a ifetsa social worker ya tla ya mfounela ra tsamaya ra misa rehab o robetse one day ko rehab the following day the next guy am phonela a re ngwana ha a ro batla o boela hae
all right ma'am o tla mamela mo TV re tla o tholla thuso okay.
Okay,
all right. Thank you, ma'am. All right, so the issue there, and I think I'll throw this to you, Desiree, is the understanding in that, there are many families, and this is not an isolated story that, we're newly hearing now, where there is a problem child or a problem human being that's in the house that is stealing, that takes things, that's inconveniencing people, and of course those effects spill over to everyone in the house. What can we do when we've already done enough, according to us? We've tried all the parts, we've gone to the rehabs, but the person keeps relapsing and continues to use drugs. As the department, how do you assist people in this regard?
Okay. Yeah, I think as you have indicated, the caller, Ms. Dube, her situation is not unique. We receive many of such reports. What we have done as government is to make treatment facilities available across the country. Government has 13 public treatment centers across the country in all the 9 provinces. And in Gauteng, we have partnered with NPOs to assist with the expanding of services so that people can access these treatment facilities. I want to say the mom must not give up. Nobody should be regarded as unable to change. We should always believe in them. Substance use disorder is a relapsing disease, and we should also walk with them that path. I would suggest that the mom contact and any of our community-based or outpatient treatment facilities nearest to her in the area where she lives. Also, the Department of Social Development can be contacted to refer so that the person that has the substance use disorder, this child can be assisted through different approaches, motivational interviewing techniques, because we are going through different stages of change, and the person may be in a stage where he doesn't recognize that he has a problem. And we need to move him to a stage where he will say, as the clinical psychologist has earlier cited, that he acknowledges that he has a problem and that he needs to seek help for his problem. We don't want to minimize the effects of the substance use disorder on the family, and there's also support services available for the family if the mother needs to be supported. We also make use of the Al-Anon, Alateen, the services that we refer them to, because aftercare is still a great challenge also in terms of the recovery process. People may start the process and then feel after they have detoxed that they are feeling better and they don't complete the treatment. But we encourage them to say, actually, you are for lifelong in recovery. And the significant others in the lives of the young person or the person with a substance use disorder need to offer the necessary support, the guidance, and they also need to receive the necessary support, because many times they may be very much helpless, hopeless, don't know where to go to. And we want to say help is available. Please contact your nearest social development officers to redirect you to the nearest service or NPO in your area. Thank you.
We continue our discussion right after the ad break, because we're looking at substance as well as alcohol abuse today on the show. Affects not only the individual, but of course the family members that form part of that person's life. It is a disease that is recognized and of course is something that can happen again and again and again. And of course we continue the discussion to see the help that you can get after the ad break. Welcome back. This is Vital Signs. We continue our discussion with Desiree Karlinski, the Acting Director of Substance Abuse Prevention, Treatment and Rehabilitation Services from the Gauteng Department of Social Development, and Varoshni Nadesan, a non-alcoholic board member from Alcoholics Anonymous, South Africa. Ladies, let's continue our discussion, and I want us to look at what we were touching on just before we went to ad break, the effects on family. Dr. Varoshni, let's talk about how this affects families. I mean, you deal a lot with people that have got alcohol abuse and use problems. How does it generally affect their families, and do things ever get back to normal?
Well, you know, it affects families in various ways. I'm also a social worker by profession, and I've seen firsthand how alcoholism can and any kind of substance abuse actually affects the families. It starts small. You have various, identification factors that one can look at in terms of how alcohol and substances infiltrate the family. And and AA has on its website a whole list of factors that one can identify with. And if, for instance, alcoholism has affected your work, it's affected your home life, it's affected your schooling, do you find that you're binge drinking? Do you find that you are, avoiding work on a Monday morning? Or are you using your monies, that's intended for the family actually on alcohol and substance abuse? Then you need to consider whether, you actually have a problem. And in all likelihood, you may need help. And reach out to AA, reach out to Narcotics Anonymous, reach out, as you've heard Desiree say, to families of AA, and that's Al-Anon family groups. Now, alcoholism affects not just the alcoholic, but it actually affects 16 people around you, 16 significant others. And this has come out from statistics. It affects the immediate family, the microsystem. It affects the mesosystem, which is the family, the significant others that the family interacts with. And then it affects the macro system as well, which is the community. It affects the schooling. It affects your work life. So, addiction is not just restricted to the individual who has the problem or the individual who has been identified with the problem. At least 16 other members, significant others, are affected. Alcoholism also affects the community. It affects the economy. It affects, the person's work stream. It affects the employer. It affects the employment sector as well. So it actually has a ripple effect on all different facets of society.
Okay, let's wrap things up, and I'm going to come back to you, Desiree. And this is the issue that you lightly touched on earlier on, addressing access, in that our communities have got multiple bottle stores, have got, multiple people that sell drugs, that everyone knows they sell drugs, but we don't necessarily have these preventative measures to assist the people from staying away from that. So what's the department, very shortly, we don't have a lot of time left, doing with respect to amplifying preventative measures for our communities?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think my heart is at prevention. We need to stop it before it starts, because then we have a greater chance of succeeding. We, as the Department of Social Development, intensified the Kimoja Substance Abuse Prevention Program to empower young people with skills so that they will be able to make good life choices, because they should be able to say, I'm fine without drugs, even in the midst of a community where those things are available. So the Kimoja program prevention, we are pressurizing on that one. Services are available for those that are already affected and needs treatment, and then they can access it through the Department of Social Development. They can check on the website to see what services are available, as well as NPOs at a community-based level to ensure that access is more available. There are more than 117 treatment beds available for inpatient treatment facilities and 226 in halfway houses where people need support in aftercare.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Varoshni Nadesan, as well as Desiree Karlinske. Interesting episode. Very, very impactful with respect to the information that came out, because I know we all know someone that has got an issue that they're suffering from, and I hope you got something out of it. From the team at Vital Signs, I'm Dr. Musa Mtombeni. We'll see you next week.